Terrifics Annual #1, which has 3 stories in it. It's got a main story by Gene Luen Yang, which is cool because I was like, oh, I've not seen him in a while since
Yeah.
New
New
Superman
Superman.
ended. And then we have a story by Mark Russell, and we have a story by James Asmus in terms of writing. And then on the art side, we have Joe Bennett, Jose Lewis, and Doc Shaner. So the
Hmm.
art team across the board's pretty solid there. Hard to
Yeah.
fault. Uh,
And the writing, like, so we all know that Lemire is doing this as DC's Fantastic Four,
yeah.
but I feel like Yang really tapped into what this team can be after all of this Dr. Dread stuff is
Oh,
over.
sure.
Because that story might be the most fun I had all week reading comics.
Yeah, because I think that the 2 backups are kind of loosely tied into the main
Yeah.
story of the book. We'll get to them in a minute. The first story, though, is a plot about Plastic Man DNA that was mixed with like a knockoff T-sphere, an S-sphere specifically,
Yeah.
which creates
Body
clones.
snatchers.
Yeah, body snatchers essentially. It cocoons people in a Plastic Man style cocoon, and then a clone of that person will be walking around, including the boy the Phantom Girl's into at the park. It's a Halloween party, so it's Halloween themed as well. Which, by the
Yeah.
way, I love that she went as Phantom of the Opera.
For the opera, because
That
she's Phantom Girl.
that's gold.
Yeah.
That's gold.
Um,
Um,
and I love that Rex and Plastic Man are going back and forth over
yeah.
transforming into different things, and they end up playing Twister to settle their differences. Like
But
it kept the fun and the silver aginess, because this felt like an issue that would have been around, like, the Terrifics Halloween special
yeah.
or whatever.
Which
And
I have to say though, like, why would you ever agree to play Twister with Plastic Man? He's got an advantage that like no one can
but
beat
so
him.
does Rex. Rex can do all sorts of that stuff too. So, it's not
Yeah,
like they're
but
regular people.
Plastic Man's still got the advantage in Twister.
See, I feel this is the difference between us. You're a Plastic Man guy. I'm a Metamorpho guy.
This is not about picking
Like,
favorites. This is just
yeah.
pure logic. It can
Yeah, but he can stretch too. Rex can do all sorts of stuff with his body because he can transmute into different things.
he
You
can
know?
transmute, but that doesn't necessarily make him bend over things the way that Plastic Man can.
If he transmutes into rubber, why not? I'm just saying.
It's a dumb conversation. Anyway, so Mr. Terrific's all nervous, and we find out it's because he's got the hots for one of the people who works at Stag Industries that's at the party. But she turns out to be a body snatched person because a real body falls from the the roof. What I like about it is at the end when the kind of sad point is that both the people, the love interest for both Terrific and Phantom Girl,
Yeah.
both of them kind of like they both tried to talk to the real person afterwards, but it wasn't quite the same. It was like they were actually attracted to the
Well,
fake versions more so.
Phantom Boy ended up being a copy of Plastic Man's son, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's his son because we don't know that at first, but yeah, when Plastic
Right?
Man sees him,
Yeah.
it comes up.
And
Um,
because it's his DNA, it also retains some of his memories weirdly. And so when the jig's up, the copies become like old villains and whatnot that Plastic Man's fought.
yeah,
Um,
it's all Plastic Man villains. Yeah, that's right.
which was really cool. And just the whole T-sphere and the putty reminded me of the responsometers for the Metalmen. I don't know if you're familiar with the Metalmen at all.
Oh yeah,
But
Batman. Yeah.
yeah, but that's what makes them work. So it gave it that kind of vibe. Like, hey, you just stick this in this thing, and that's what makes it work. Um, but yeah, oh man, it's a whole lot of fun. I like this story a lot. What I didn't like though was Yang taking a cop out on what Phantom Girl's real name is. 'Cause she's like, oh, you wouldn't be able to pronounce it right. I'm like, it's just Linya. Like, it's not that difficult, you know. But yeah.
Isn't Linya short for the full thing though?
I think so, but
What I
she
say? Yeah.
why couldn't she just say my name's Linya? You know? I don't know. But yeah, no, it felt, nice for Yang to be writing a team that doesn't have to be serious. It can still tell a nice story.
Yeah, it's basically like Justice League of China. Again.
Exactly. And so yeah. So if Lemire ever needs to stop Terrifics or they need a new writer, I'm fully confident that Yang
Yeah.
can tell these fun stories.
So the second story is about Java.
Mm-hmm.
And about how he's a Neanderthal and how he's been alive for a long time and kind of his origins and how smarter humans came along, and it became much harder for him and his people, because the smarter people weren't bad to them necessarily. They just got better at hunting because they had tools and because they had tactics,
technology,
and things like that. Yeah. And he ends up frozen in ice like Captain America, right? Which I'm going to be honest. I had no idea this was his backstory.
I think Java's kind of a new character.
Is he?
I feel like he's, because I feel like he's based on the one from Teen Titans. What was his name?
Mammoth.
Mark?
Oh, Mark.
No, Mammoth was the villain. You remember in Titans Hunt and Cave Boy.
So no, it's interesting. It's interesting that he's got this hefty backstory. But he got smart. Basically, scientists made him smart, and it's basically just a sort of setup for why he has this motivation to become the smartest and become the Dr. Dread of the world, because he wants to be smarter than everyone else and manipulate everyone, because now he's got the upper hand. Now he's the one who's ahead of the curve. It was pretty simple. This is probably my least favorite of the stories. Yeah,
I wanted to like it more because of the caveman stuff, but I did like the story. But it was very tropey, in that natural selection came, put pressures on the Neanderthal, and they couldn't survive. So
yeah, it felt like one of those things. Okay, we need to fill this up, so it was an annual. So here's a story that didn't really need to be told, but it's just okay. The final story, which is the Shaner in James Asmus story, that is again tied into what's going on in the book. This was the story of Tom Strong and how he ended up on that celestial being and left that message. And again, it feels kind of like I think the first story is the best one because it is this just standalone fun story.
Yeah.
This one's fun. It looks good. The art's good, and
the art's really good. The story it got up in some technobabble.
It's a lot of technobabble, and ultimately it's like, well, we didn't really need to know much of this. It's fine.
It's kind of where it left us. Like, he fought that big titan that they ended up in the first arc of Terrifics, and it showed how he left his communication device.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like, okay, well, I don't think anybody asked.
Yeah, it almost treated it like it was a plot hole that people were complaining about and had to be explained, but no one actually cared. Why did they leave the beacon on if he was gone and he was okay? No one even really thought about it, but it was answered, so here it is.
Yeah. So I just pulled up Java, and he's been around since 65.
He's a new character, Matt. Shame on you.
Yeah, shame on me. He did become the Shaggy Man for a minute.
Oh, okay.
That's cool. That. Huh. But yeah, he's always been a thorn in the side of Metamorpho, just because he has a thing for Sapphire Stag. But yeah.
Okay. Now, I liked the first story a lot. I thought it was good fun. It's exactly why I like Terrifics. It's exactly the sort of stuff that Lemire does.
Yeah.
And then the art in all three stories was pretty good. But the two backups I felt were fine enough for what they were. I especially liked the art in the Shaner, Tom Strong story. But they felt kind of like, we don't really need these. They're just kind of these superfluous, like... It kind of felt like that thing where you get these little... It's like a prequel that doesn't need to be a prequel. It doesn't need to exist. Yeah. It's just kind of there to fill in something that didn't need to be filled in. So it feels a little bit like, okay, this is nice enough, but...
Like when Lost decided that they needed an endpoint. When we got those episodes about Jack's tattoos.
Oh, yes.
That's what this kind of felt like. It was like, well, we didn't need it, but thanks, I guess.
They're okay. I sometimes have this feeling where there's clearly the main story, and then you'll have the backups that are there to make it up to the page count. And it felt like, you have to fill this page count so someone come up with a story, as opposed to, I've got a good idea for a story, put a backup in.
I much rather would have had a Plastic Man versus Metamorpho kind of story where they're messing with each other in Stag in the building or whatnot.
I would have taken a story about them picking their Halloween costumes and just...
Yeah.
That's all it is. Do that.
Yeah. But no, that first story was worth it, I feel.
I think that's maybe what hurts the other two stories as well a little bit, is that the Terrifics themselves aren't in it.
Yeah.
So, and that's okay. That's not the end of the world. You can have something focusing on a side character or a villain, but... It's just like, I'm here for the four of them, and they're so fun. But hey, not bad though, by any means. So what are we going to rate the Terrifics annual?
So I wanted to give it a high mark because of that first story, but the other two kind of drag it down.
Hmm.
Then the art drags it back up.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give it a 7. But I wanted to go higher, but those two stories you really can't.
Okay. I'll go 7.5. I think. Again, the first story is definitely the best one. Yeah. I think if I was rating them individually, it'd be like an 8 and then like a 6 and a 6.5 or something like that. But
Yeah.
I'm rounding it down to overall a 7.5.